Have you tried that L-theanine stuff yet?
No, that I'm gonna order that real quick, actually, right now.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm gonna share the show. Welcome to Bitcoin Veterans. It's me and Mike Hobart as usual here. I think we got a lot to talk about today. A little bit earlier, and I think we're gonna be moving this back to 7 p.m. We'll see. It's a free show, people. You know, this is one of those things that we do out of the goodness of our heart because we like talking to each other, and we like having this done for our amazing guys out there, Bitcoin veterans, and across. I mean, you don't even have to be a veteran to be part of this, but we'll get into that later. We're gonna share the show around. If you would be so kind to go out there and share the show as well, that will help us get this thing moving in the right direction. So let me.
Was it L-theanine or L-thiamine?
You're asking a Marine to start spelling for you.
Yeah,
thiamine, you know.
Because there's a difference.
Is there?
Yeah. One's for cortisol levels, which if you're trying to get energy, you don't want cortisol levels to drop.
All right. Yeah, I think the cortisol levels. I think it does affect cortisol levels because what it does is it takes you out of beta brainwaves and it puts you into alpha. So it kind of calms you down.
You can get it mixed with caffeine.
Yeah, so that's the key: is a little bit of caffeine with this stuff, and you go from ADHD to super zoned in on what you need to get done.
Chat. Now we're talking.
Hey, funny thing is one of the ladies who attends the jujitsu, gym that we're in, she had some of this focus gum, and Jackson took a piece of it, my son, for those of you guys don't know, and he was just like zonked in, like he was just like wonk, and he said he didn't like it, but if it helps you concentrate on what you need to get done, because I know a lot of people are super distracted. It does move you from a beta, like fight or flight type of cortisol response brainwave into an alpha brainwave, which is much calmer. You're not quite as distracted, and people are reporting some pretty amazing things out of it. So it's just something maybe look at or try.
Amazon trying to get me to add 1 penny to my order so I get overnight delivery. Get the fuck out of here.
You can 1 penny, and you can cut down on your caffeine with this. So you don't need, I don't know how much caffeine you drink, Mike, but when I was drinking it, I was going through, 2 Yetis like this every day worth of coffee.
I could probably do that much coffee in like the first couple hours of my morning, which is the evening for everybody else.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying is, like, if you don't want to overload your cortisol levels and your caffeine response and do all that nonsense, then, maybe go out there and try L-theanine with a little bit of caffeine, and maybe you can reduce that. I'm going to tell you, like, I feel a lot better since quitting caffeine, and that was years ago now.
I don't know. Now. I don't know what that's like, because like going through basic training was like, it was interesting. Like I have to say, like I didn't feel bad not having caffeine, but I just feel better with caffeine. Like I just like the stimulation.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's also why I have never touched like any of those recreational drugs of that like sort. Because I'm like, I like caffeine and pre-workout. Like I'm not touching any of the other shit because I've seen what it does to people and it destroys lives. So I'm not touching it.
What do you like? What are you saying? The other stuff like
booger sugar.
Oh, like cocaine. Yeah, I was going to ask if it was cocaine.
Yeah, like I'm like,
that's a hell of a pre-workout.
Yeah, well, I mean, because like I spent a number of years, like a significant, like the better part of a decade in like the whole party world. So I was around prevalent access to it. And I was just like, no, I'll stick with the alcohol.
Dude, I saw what that stuff does to people, man. And it was one of those things I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what you're going for? This is a good time where, you guys are trying to get in fights. You're high strung. You're wooing at the moon, like a bunch of. Just like, geez,
well, and then they have the dopamine crash the next day, and they all just feel like ass, and they're just like in their beds or whatever. I'm like, You guys look pathetic. Like I might have a hangover, but at least I don't feel like that, you know?
Right.
And I was so heavily into the swing of partying that like, hey, I was a lot like Archer. Like if you've seen that show, like the hangover really didn't like affect me the next day. So I'd go out and like drink it with my buddies until like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I'd be deadlifting like 6 hours later, you know, and not puking.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of veterans can relate to partying hard and then coming back and, you know,
running like 6 miles.
Yeah. Just getting after it, running O courses and, you know, probably puking at the same time. Like that was definitely a thing. Thank God for corpsmen and medics. I'm sure for you guys, like, I mean, if you had a medic that, you know, lived around you, you just came into the barracks and you're like, hey man, can you get a bag tonight?
Give me a drip.
Yeah, and they were happy to practice on you. Like they were like, "Yo, yeah, man, I can't wait to stick another guy." This is awesome. Like all Friday night, man, you just had corpsmen all around the barracks, just you know, and Saturday for that matter. Just you know, yeah, go. I'll put a bag in you. Let's go.
Yeah, we did have we had like those guys like on range day for drill. Like there would be the medics that were out there that'd bring a couple bags just to put some guys on drips while everybody's out there shooting. Forgot about that.
Those guys are great, man. I mean, you can't beat that kind of stuff. I'm almost done sharing all this stuff. You know, it's one of those things.
Where's my phone?
I'm just gonna say you got that as well. This is the pre-show, by the way. We do this every Tuesday night. We usually start at 9. I think we're going to be moving it back to 7, and we'll broadcast that later what our final decision is. But I think because it's most of the time it's me and Mike, and this fits our schedule probably a little bit better. We get it out of the way a little bit earlier, and that way Mike can focus on his evening, which is full of work, and I can focus on the family here, which is always full of something.
Yep. Dude, having schedules polar opposite of everybody really like throws a wrench in a lot of shit.
Yeah, we got to get you back on the you know, the day side of things at some point here.
Yeah, dude. It's funny. It's actually a lot relatable to like doing like stuff with the Army, like whether it was basic training or whether it was deployment. It's just like keeping that in the back of your mind of having a finish line that you're looking forward to. It is actually pretty nice. Like having that. It's like, oh man, I am excited. I'm so excited for that. Like fantasy of getting back on a normal schedule, of being able to go to sleep when the sun goes down like everybody else.
You know, it's crazy, Mike, because I totally relate with that. And it was one of those periods of my life when I was in college before 9/11. I was going to school. I was working at Home Depot overnight. And so I'd go in, I'd go in, I'd stock shelves and then, you know, probably around 8:00 in the morning, we got off straight into classes, still taking a full load of classes, like, you know, 15 hours, 16. Oh, it was, I mean, I was trying to get done, man. I was trying to make some money and get done. So 9/11 happens and I ran off to the Marine Corps like days later. And I got to tell you, getting up at 4:30 a.m., having 3 meals and only having to do Marine Corps stuff, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the easiest shit
ever. It's a cakewalk. Let's go.
Yeah. My schedule just got infinitely easier. And if I make it through this, I'm going to have the GI Bill when I get back. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Made all the sense in the world at the time.
One thing that I was sharing with some of the guys at BitBlock Moon was one of the benefits of being on that night schedule is that it's black and it's like night and day difference, pun intended, of being able to like stay up for 24 hours or more. Like once you're capable of once you have the schedule of being up at night when you're naturally supposed to be sleeping, and then you stay awake until like that sun comes up, then your body's just doing what it's supposed to do, which is not healthy at all, by the way.
No.
But it's if you have like a time crunch or you're in a pinch and you need to get some shit done, like it is a lot easier to just like keep trucking and get some shit done.
You know what's really wild, man, is have you ever heard that about that study that the guy did? And I forgot if it was like 8 months or 18 months. Anyway, he goes down in this cave and he's a scientist, right? He's trying to like, prove some things, but what he ends up proving is that the human body isn't actually on like a 24-hour clock. It's
Yeah.
wild, right? So, without any stimulus from the sun at all for months and months and months, he would end up going sometimes like 36, 48 hours at a time, and he'd crash for like 12 hours. And that became the norm.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
very
thought that was,
circumstantial as far as like sleep goes.
yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. Like I think it's largely a lot of this stuff is due to like the agrarian calendar, but like there's I mean, we've kind of like determined through studies that like 8 hours of sleep is optimal, but like that's like you're saying, that's not necessarily true.
yeah.
Like you could get like 3-4 hours of sleep at a time spread across like one or two different points throughout the day for like weeks. And like I've done it, like getting like I actually prefer to get like 4 hours of sleep, wake up, do a bunch of shit, then maybe lay down for like an hour to another 4 hours, maybe like at a time. But yeah, I don't like I think sleep along with like eating routines, I think it's just we've tried to oversimplify so we can have like the routines of like getting stuff done. Um I think it's caused people to kind of like have these false conceptions about like what's actually necessary or like what our body does. Cuz like one of the things around like weight gain and eating, um I think a lot of the problem for people that have weight management problems is that they just get so used to the routine of like, oh, I should be eating it's breakfast, or oh, I should be eating it's lunch or dinner. Versus myself, like when I was a kid, I mean, granted, I'm highly gifted with a very high metabolism, so like there's that. Um, but I never ate when I wasn't hungry. Like I'm not like just because it's dinner, I'm not going to eat because it's dinner. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Just
and yeah, it's one of those things, culturally, it's like kind of what we were told is right to do, right? You sit down, you have dinner with the family, and not a bad, like, I think it's actually a very healthy thing. It brings the family together. You have discussions about things. But I'm with you, man. Like until I had a wife, man, like it was one of those things where it's like there's no schedule. I ate when I was hungry,
yeah.
and I didn't eat when I wasn't hungry. And boy, I tell you what, when you start eating culturally together, man, that's when guys start getting,
Big.
fat. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. And it is, boy, whether it's mentally healthy, good for the soul, but terrible for your body and everything. Like that's, I don't. There's some trade offs there somewhere.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately it just comes down to like just families and individuals. Cause like that's the other thing too, right? Is like part of it's a good thing that you mentioned culture. What's up, Johnny? It's a good thing that you mentioned culture because like there's the whole aspect of like if you're gonna sit down at the dinner table with everybody, um 36 dimension chess. If you're gonna sit down like to dinner with everybody, like part of the culture is like if you don't finish your plate, it's disrespectful, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of needs to be shattered as far as like if you don't finish your plate, then you're not hungry. Like I get it. Like we'll just feed it to the chickens outside. That's probably what we need is like everybody, like we need a lot more like neighborhoods, just kind of like homesteading and everything. It's like, oh, you've got leftovers, like just drop them off over here. Our chickens or
Yeah.
our pigs will take care of them.
Yeah, people are like, we used to eat all of our food. I was like, no, you didn't. A lot of it used to go to the pigs and to,
Yeah.
whatever dogs you had running around back in the day that, were part of the, at
Yeah,
least.
you're gonna tell me that you're gonna finish the rest of that meal when you have to go right back out into the field and move and like tend to the crops and everything. Like, no, I've overeaten and then I've gone to do physical work and it's not fun. You usually end up puking it back up and then you're hungry like a few hours later.
Oh man, I was telling everybody. Yeah, I think I told you last week. I was down at Mining Disrupt, and it was just conference, call after conference call, and dinner after dinner, and like by the time I was done, I was like, dude, I'm going to do my first 72-hour fast, and that was last weekend. Man, I tell you what, I never went from feeling so bad about eating to feeling great about not eating in my entire life.
Starving.
I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed, man. Oh man. All right. I think you guys have probably heard enough of our dietary habits. Let's start this show. Bitcoin veterans, we got a hell of a show. We're going to talk Trump, tariffs, Netanyahu, and a few other things out there that's going on with the market. Hold on to your butts. Here it comes. Welcome to Bitcoin Veterans. I'm your host, Shane Hazel. I got Mike Hobart with me tonight, and we've got a great show for you. But first, Bitcoin Veterans, if you want to join, it's bitcoinveterans.org. We do this because, first of all, we love veterans, and we love what Bitcoin is doing for veterans. And I'm going to have Mike kind of talk about this a little bit because you just got to go down to BitBlock Boom. You were one of the speakers down there and got to tell everybody what we've been doing, but we put this whole thing together because we started seeing some guys in the space that were veterans, and I was like, dude, there's definitely a huge market gap right now where these guys can fit in and do some pretty amazing things. And lo and behold, we're coming up on almost 2 years of this, and
just hard to believe.
Yeah, what's happening now? It blew my mind. When we started, I think you were asking in the chats, like, hey man, do you have stats for, what we've been able to accomplish in North Carolina? Do you have, and other guys started chiming in, and, now we've got a quarterly publication that's, going to be written about this. But yeah, you were down at BitBlock Boom in Dallas this past weekend and got to tell everybody what Bitcoin veterans have been up to. And it's a healthy list.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't even, you ambushed me with that.
I was going to pull up the entire thing, but
let me pull the notes up. I actually just retweeted it, so I can just go to my profile and it's right there. Yeah, like, first of all, one thing that I will say is that I was shocked at how many people were in the audience to listen to the update. And I was actually, one thing that I will say is I was also shocked. Big shout out to Gary Leland and the BitBlock Boom crowd that threw it all, because I was not expecting to get like a early morning slot in the conference, which is usually like the prime time.
That's a huge spot.
Yeah. It's like going on. I think I went on it. I was supposed to go on at 10:40. I went on at 10:50. I was expecting 3:00 in the afternoon after like the primetime speakers are done. And
everybody's up there in their hotel room for a nap after lunch.
Yeah, everybody's taking naps and getting food before they all go out and party, because it was I think it was a Saturday night that I left. But yeah, so I was initially concerned that the whole 10 minutes that I was supposed to speak was not going to be able to be filled. I know I tend to be long form, and that's usually not a problem for me for filling time and airspace. But I was like, I just try to make sure that it's a good conversation and people aren't, it's not a snooze fest and people are getting up and leaving, especially for like a brief 10-minute chat. But when I asked all of our cadre and all of our guys, hey, it's like, you guys got any stats on like what we've been able to accomplish, or like any projects that you guys have spooled up that you want to get highlighted? And then all of a sudden the chat blew up with all these different initiatives that I was not aware of that we were even doing. And I think that's probably, of all, like, now I can't let it, in my heart, I can't let it outshine like the North Carolina efforts that we did, but it's a very, very close second to that. Seeing all the different things that all of our guys are out there doing, and they're doing it because we provided them a place to come together and just talk with like-minded individuals with like-minded interests and all that. And then, I mean, like did you see the shout out in the pod 256 from the guys at like Bitcoin Park and Econo Alchemist? That honestly, that's probably the biggest kind of like gas up or ego boost that I've had in a very long time over there. Like, dude, like, did you guys hear about these Bitcoin veterans? Like, they just like saw what happened in North Carolina and they're like, well, we're just going to meet up with
F-150 Tacomas.
They just got together, like, let's just get together with 40 guys we've never met and like load our trucks up and go down there and help. Like that was
shout out to Rod and Alchemist and Odell and the rest of the guys up at Bitcoin Park, man. We love those guys. They are fantastic. And I mean, yeah, they'll gas you up real quick for sure.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, like just seeing like all we've got, let me go over some of the stats. So for one of the coolest things about like the Hurricane Helene efforts that we did was actually, I think one of the coolest things was what you took part in that first week you went down of setting up HLZ Zombie, because that did end up becoming like a key logistical hub for the entire effort for like up through, I think it was up through winter, if I'm not mistaken. But then obviously the fact that we ended up donating 30 generators like that, I didn't realize we had donated that many. Like I only got to see like the handful that Jordan and I brought down, and then donating 20,000 in Bitcoin to just like individuals or families that we were kind of running across while we were doing all of our other missions and objectives. And then the big one is obviously the 100 grand in Bitcoin to Resilient Recovery. Like that, like those guys.
Dude, yeah, James Artman and the Resilient Recovery team, just unbelievable. They're still busting their ass. I mean, those guys have now been able to get equipment. So they've got, some small excavators, a truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they literally were able to go out with Bitcoin and pay for it in Bitcoin. And so now, they were running 500 missions. What was it? They were running 500 missions a week, sustained for months, right? So to be able to run, and basically what they were doing is they were running a warehouse out of just east of Hickory. Trying to remember.
Wasn't it donated by Duke Energy?
Yeah, so it used to be a cotton mill, and so they got this gigantic, I think it was a 400,000 square foot, old cotton mill, and they turned it into a warehouse. A guy came down that I met when I was up there from the Dakotas, and he was like, dude, I used to run warehouses, and God told me I needed to come down and do this, and I found you, and then he started running the warehouse. And so they were literally
divine providence right there.
Yeah, they were literally going out and delivering and supplying 500 regular families on a weekly basis for months out of that warehouse. And then to go out and do all the clearing of trees like we saw up there in Green Mountain, where the F5 came through along with like 4 other tornadoes in that area alone. You just think they're gonna be digging out of this for months. So yeah, they've been able to use that Bitcoin directly for like equipment to pay for it, and then on top of it to sustain their operations, all the way up to date. And then
and like the thing that I just thought of too is they're going to be able to use that equipment or donate it to like the local like parks departments, or just use it for themselves, because like they're going to need to clear away a lot of that debris if they don't want to have like wildfires just running rampant up through those mountains. Like that would be like some shit that like those local like communities, with their luck as far as getting hit with that kind of a storm, they would also it makes sense that they would also get slapped with like some sort of wildfire like a year or two later, like right after they all get their roots reestablished and everything. Then a wildfire comes blazing through and like knocks all their shit out again. Like that's something that we can't be letting happen, But some more of the other stuff that I touched on is that we have one of our BVs speaking at the BTC++. I think is that like a small, I think that's a small conference that's coming up, like more on the developer side.
Yeah.
So like that BV is going to be talking about eHash and blinded signatures for mining shares. Like I think I understand what that means, but I don't. I don't fully understand, so I need to actually.
Pretty sure I know who that guy is, and
yeah,
he's one of our extremely bright change the world Bitcoin veterans. A little of a time behind the scenes. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's our I would label him as our prime Aspie baby. Like he's definitely got some Aspie in him. And like it's like the right touch of Asperger's to like make him like super powered, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He is a super powered Bitcoin veteran for sure.
Yeah. And then we have a BV leading DC Bit Devs, which is really that's like as far as strategery goes, that's big. That's a big one. Like being able to like lead something like that in DC, where like, I mean, besides the fact it's the local, it's like the national, probably global hub for corruption and everything else. It's also like a major strategic point for like intelligence gathering and intelligence spread too. Like if you want people getting briefed up on like what's actually going on with Bitcoin,
yeah,
DC Bit Devs is going to be the spot. Like it's going to be.
And they're those same guys are working with the Bitcoin BPI Bitcoin Policy Institute as well, which has a ton of gravity. I should say gravitas, and really, you know, they're reaching out and touching the people who are making, you know, the legislative changes that we're gonna need.
Yeah. And by the way, those guys, I actually also played a part in connecting them to the yeah, exactly. It's in the MicroStrategy building, which is, you know, as far as bullishness goes, like everybody knows who MicroStrategy is.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that being close, it being in close proximity to all of that at BPI, I played a role in connecting the BPI team to a group of individuals over in the UK that have been working to build their own BPI and then also build out a template so that other countries across the world can build their own Bitcoin Policy Institute. So we can start getting like all this stuff kind of spread out globally. So there's a lot of there's a lot of chain reactions and catalyzation that's going on, like specifically out of like DC Bit Devs that I don't think people are probably going to be aware of or giving enough credit to. So, but then the other thing, a couple other things I wanted to touch on before we move on was obviously we got Bitcoin Alaska coming up, and I will say that we are looking for sponsors. So like if you guys know of anybody, particularly for example, if you guys know of anybody that's in the oil and gas space that like oil, like particularly oil pumping, that might want something to do with their natural gas. Like we've got like down in Texas, down at BitBlock Boom, a bunch of my buddies like Dan Morrison, who are the smaller oil pumpers that are also now Bitcoin miners because it gave them something to do with their natural gas. Like hit us up, reach out. Like we're looking for any level of sponsor. It could be like $500, it could be $5,000, like it doesn't matter. We're looking for sponsors, so like reach out to us and let us know. But then the other, like we have a partnership with Bitcoin Sports Network. Like I didn't know about that. Like that's dope. Like,
that was a great that was a great segment this morning on the Coleman show. I should say it's Coleman runs our 10 a.m. Yeah, the Coleman show.
Live with Coleman. That's what it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So live at 10 a.m. Eastern on Spaces, there is another show, Bitcoin Veterans, that Coleman runs, and those guys came on, and you know what they were able to do in Nashville. They got approached by the guys over at Bitcoin Magazine and said, "Hey, can you do the same thing out in Vegas?" And it seems like they've got a lot of big things in the works, and why not, man? It's like when we talk about being early to a space, like if you think, you know, that you missed the .com era and all that, there was everything that is in this world is going to revolve around Bitcoin at some point. So you might as well grab whatever your niche is now while it's early and start building it out.
Yeah. And like I think I said it before I started like kind of like rattling off these accolades, but the fact that like I for one don't know about all this stuff that's going on within our organization, that was like kind of the plan. Like we wanted to like build like just a place for guys to come and like stamp down their standard and then start going off and doing their thing. Like, it's not like we're not trying to run this like Apple or Facebook or something. It's like, hey, just come in here, do good work. Don't tarnish everybody else's reputation, because if you do, we're gonna make you pay for it in
You're
some
out.
form or fashion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're good. Like, that's it. Like, that's all we're doing. So but then obviously I wanted to touch on like the mining projects. So we've got supporting pleb miners is a big one, and then we've got heat punks, and then there's, I guess we have some open source projects I don't like, I'm not aware of, but at least our guys are playing a role in. And there might be that, I'm assuming there's a little bit of OPSEC there, probably just trying to make sure that everybody's protected, because when it comes to open source, like, there are some parties that you probably don't want to know that you're working on an open source project and helping develop. Otherwise, they can find a way to socially engineer you and steer that open source development into a particular way. We just don't need that. And then we've got CivNet coming, which I'm assuming I know what that is, depending from the name.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. And then I guess we have some guys working on a mining specific pod. So between that pod and then the cryptography podcast that we have, I think that should cover a lot of bases for people trying to understand like what exactly is going on as far as like Bitcoin and how it ticks. So, but the one thing that I do want to mention is that I got some news on some developments on increased interest for like us providing physical security. So that's something we can probably talk about like offline. And then the biggest thing that there was interest for, which actually surprised me, was after I mentioned the Brave mission. I had a lot of guys come up to me in person and shoot me a message on like Twitter about having interest in playing a role in assisting the Brave mission and pushing it forward. So that I'm particularly excited about. That's kind of like our baby.
Yeah, man. I've given a lot of thought to the Brave mission, and it's been one of those pet projects that I've kept close to the chest for a lot of reasons, right? Like, there's this understanding that this is the way we treat PTSD in the United States and around the world, for that matter.
It's nonsensical.
It is. It's not only nonsensical, but it's also one of those things where we definitely have, I don't want to say cures, but we definitely have therapeutics that I think change this in sometimes one lesson, one session, I should say. Yeah. And for us not to be exercising this in the places that allow for it, especially, I think it's a real shortcoming. And if I had, more time and more of my life where I could go to places where this was legal. But yeah, there's something in the back of my mind that if you are interested in supporting Brave, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me at shanehazel.com. And, and if you're interested in the Brave mission and supporting it and being, one of those people that helps us really propel this thing to a like looking at putting forth a center, like a place where guys can go, they can get help, and have, this facilitated, because, hey, listen, we do use psilocybin, and psilocybin is one of those things that has been studied. It's been studied for a long time. They don't like to talk about it because I think of how powerful it is, and in the right hands with the right people, it is no less than miraculous.
Well, especially if there's like an office or a clinic, or I mean,
I think
I'm even gonna say like the VA, which I don't expect the VA to actually.
I don't want it in their hands.
But if there is like a kind of like a revolt or revolution of ideology within those kinds of organizations, right. Like I would think that there's even a possibility of them like reaching out and being like, hey, like, could we do like a test run of sending like a few of our like our individuals that we're trying to help out, that none of our stuff's working. It's like, yeah, send him up or send them up, and like we'll take them up to the mountain, and we'll provide security for them and make sure that they're good and safe, and they're in an environment that they're with guys that they know and understand, and then this, I'm gonna bet that you're gonna make some breakthroughs that having these guys sit on a couch and engage in feminine practices, like that's you're gonna make leaps and bounds over what you could get in that kind of environment.
Yeah. You're speaking to, this is two guys that have been down that road a number of times, and it has absolutely changed my life into this. I mean, this whole Bitcoin veterans thing is a result of a vision, and that vision came from one of those trips. It was literally one of those trips that said, "Hey, man, this is what you should be doing. This is kind of where your little niche is in this cosmic universe that we call life." And that was, I don't know, 2019ish, and to see that we have all this amazing stuff going on around us, and we have these incredible veterans that we have the ability to help. I think it's probably time to start pushing this in front of some people with some deep pockets that want to help, and start to set up centers where it's legal for us to operate, and then obviously do this in the form factor that is we probably have medical specialists on hand. We've got the right place for the comings and goings of men who are definitely dealing with some things. And I think when you couple all that together, you've got something that's not only going to be groundbreaking, but it's going to revolutionize the way we treat PTSD across the board. And to be part of that as well, it's just that's cool that was one of the things that they were really interested in.
Yeah. I was not expecting it. Like it was like everybody was coming. I was like, hey, yeah, I want to be interested. And then they go to talk about like what they're interested in helping out. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll take your contact info. I've got it.
Right on.
So I'll send that on to you after we're done here, so you can have like that information.
So usually we just say, hey, this is all about, getting Bitcoiners and veterans back on the mission, which is freedom, it's liberty, it's property, it's self-sovereignty, and owning, and keeping what you've earned and spent your life on. And really, this group of guys, if you can think about it and you want to do something, you can get in touch with us at bitcoinveterans.org. We'll get you plugged into the chats. The civilian side of this, we are not exclusive to veterans. We are setting up an entire civilian network at the same time on top of this. And that will obviously, be supplemented by veterans. So if you need help with something, you want to ask something, man, if you need understanding, that we need as many civilians as we have veterans, if not more. And, to put people on this decentralized path of taking responsibility and taking ownership and taking action, I think is absolutely where Bitcoin veterans is headed. So should we get into some of the fun news to kind of break this up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm itching to talk about this stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah.
We have
GI Barbie.
Yeah. I was gonna say Homeland Security Barbie here.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, first of all, I see Kristi Noem, who used to be a damn governor, and she literally looks like
she's holding that rifle like a vase.
Yeah,
well, that's bothering me.
Yeah, the first thing I see here is I just look at it and I go, geez, man, she looks like one of those, dolls that they sell to, perverts out there. And yeah, I mean, I mean this, ladies, you don't need all the makeup. You don't need all this nonsense going on. It's just, it's one of those things where I think
respect craters.
Yeah, any good man out there is going to be like, geez, oh Pete, like how this is a lie. I'm just going to say it. This is a lie. Like all this clown makeup and everything else is an absolute lie. On top of it, then you start to see, kind of, and if I can zoom in on this, I might have to reload the page. Let me just reload it. Yeah. So when you reload this thing and you can actually zoom in and see her hands, man, her hand. What is this? What is this? What is this? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, you're almost flagging this guy right here. She's definitely borrowed this rifle from Cochise, and the fact that they're posing and this guy's got his weapon up like who this is propaganda at its finest, and you can tell just by looking at the picture.
Yeah,
And
why are you even holding the rifles high? Like
why
why?
are they not slung and down where they need to be? Like, oh yeah, we're going into a house right now, and she's obviously never even held one.
If she was actually preparing to go in the house, like that hair would be, if not in a bun, in a ponytail at the very least, and tucked away. Like you wouldn't be able to, like you wouldn't.
I think it's probably covering up, the line between the makeup and where her real flesh begins. I think that's probably, what it is. But I mean, it looks like her flak jacket is barely on. I mean, this almost looks like AI to me. And I don't know. For the life of me, we kind of talked about it the other week. As it's just like, be on the lookout, guys. This propaganda bullshit is everywhere. I'm so sick of things like this between her and Kash Patel and
Oh yeah,
the rest of the gang that's been put in positions out there. I didn't even need to hear what she had to say. Like, oh, we're getting the dirt bags off the streets. Sure you are.
Well, I mean, this is just like her little clip of being down in El Salvador with the El Salvadorian prisoners just like standing quietly behind her. I'm like, dude, give me a fucking break. Like this is all entirely orchestrated. None of this is normal. Like if it would have been her just like standing in like the El Salvador situation, if it would have been just her standing in front of like the wherever like the prison like barracks or whatever, like the housing area that she videotaped it in, and they were all just like moving around and like talking and doing whatever their natural stuff is, besides maybe shivving each other, like I would have been like, okay, like I can, like this is much more like, this feels much more real. But then like they're doing all this stuff, it's just pure psychological operation crap. Like that's all it is.
I totally agree. It's just like, you guys gotta stop it. I mean, this administration is quickly becoming a laughing stock, and what's really difficult is Trump is cognizant. Trump is one of those guys. He's not Biden. He's not out to lunch. He doesn't have dementia. He's literally this tough talking salesman, and he's got all these clowns who are working from him. And it sounds like he's giving them a lot of directive, and they're falling on their face right now.
Because they're doing like the communication stuff really well in other vectors, but when it comes to like the military and law enforcement stuff, they're doing just terribly.
Yeah. Speaking of terribly, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm here for it. We can have that conversation. But Benjamin Netanyahu was at the White House this week again. I think everybody's seen the stool pushing in by President Trump, which is interesting, and I don't know, choice of words there, phrasing. But when when Hegseth gets the floor here, he talks about what's been going on over in Yemen, and I think this is worth listening to, just because there's some things to say about it.
It's been a bad 3 weeks for the Houthis, and it's about to get worse. It's been a devastating campaign, whether it's underground facilities, weapons manufacturing, bunkers, troops in the open, air defense assets. We are not going to relent, and it's only to get more unrelenting until the Houthis declare they will stop shooting at our ships. And we've been very clear with the Iranians as well. They should not continue to provide support to the Houthis, and that message has been made very clear. So we have a lot more options and a lot more pressure to apply, and we know, because we see the reports, how devastating this campaign has been in them, and we will not relent.
Mike?
I think it's hard to comment on, because like that entire situation is extremely complex. Did you see the clip over the weekend where Trump like bragged about that video of a bombing of like what he said was a meeting between Houthi leaders? And I'm pretty sure that was not it was
a tribal meeting. Yeah.
It was a tribal meeting for, I believe they had like a spiritual holiday on that day. And that's, I don't know. Because like
seems a bit dirty.
What all this, like all the military positioning to me doesn't suggest that they're focusing just on Houthis. Like, I think that there's a lot going on over there where there's a very complex chess game going on. And I think that they're trying to do like the double or triple agent kind of strategy of appeasing Benjamin Netanyahu and then doing what we want. And then that pisses off Benjamin Netanyahu, and then appease him a little bit and then do what we want. And that pisses him off again. Because the smart people in the Trump administration don't want war with Iran, because like we said last week with like our boy Yomar did a good breakdown of why you don't want you don't want a military campaign against Iran, because ain't nobody invading that land.
That's right.
And so like we don't want that. So that that would make the most sense, but Israel wants it. And it's very clear that Israel has been the one dictating where a lot of our military campaigns go over the last couple of decades, because that book that I referenced last week, Spy Fail, if you guys haven't checked it out, there's a part in the book where James Bamford details Benjamin Netanyahu's rise to power, and that guy is the most corrupt person I think I have ever actually had the whole kind of breakdown of his rise to power. Like that is his soul has to be just straight black. Like there is no way that dude is a good actor in any form or fashion. Was that the clip where I saw another clip of I think you showed me of his facial expressions?
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah. Is that the clip?
Yeah.
Is that particularly the talking point, Pete Hegseth talking and then his reactions to it? Because if I remember correctly, he wasn't happy with what Pete Hegseth was saying.
This is actually from what Trump was saying, which
okay.
I think leads into this. And I'll just say, the Houthis are some of the, I think, most resilient people on the planet. For the better part of the Obama administration, and then all of the Trump administration, the first go around, those guys, there was literally a blockade. When the U.S. was, it doesn't matter, like I said, who was the president. We were literally starving the Yemenis, we were also the guys on the ground who were directing a lot of the airstrikes through Saudi Arabia, because I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't the Saudi Arabians. It's not those guys. They have equipment and they have things, but most of the time there's whether it's the Australians, the UK, or the Americans, whoever they're helping them use all of this equipment the right way, bomb the shit out of those guys and starve them and basically blockade them from the world. And so that was going on for I think 12 years. So the fact that they're to the point now where they're just YOLO, fuck it, you guys have tried to starve us, you've bombed us, you've blockaded food from coming in. We've literally had about 1 million people die down here, and that's just from the past. That was I think during the Biden administration they kind of let up a little bit, but now it's happening again. And one of the reasons, at least why the Yemenis say, hey, we're doing this, is because the U.S. is siding with Israel. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think U.S. ships would be targeted. I really don't. That's the last thing you want to do is target U.S. ships. Are you crazy? I'm not saying you can't win. I'm not saying that, and I don't know that there are winners and losers in this kind of a chess match. It's just the amount of young men that they're sending off to die, for this country, for this, this country that probably should not exist over there, Israel. Is what are we doing? What is the what is the end state? With that being said, Pete Hegseth, basically says, hey, we are warning Iran, if you don't stop trying to get these guys, food and fuel and all sorts of munitions, then we're coming after you next. And I think that's really the play here. I don't think it's so much that Iran's going to have a nuclear bomb or not. I really don't know. Maybe they already have. I mean, they've been talking about it since I think the 1970s, right? At some point Iran's going to get the bomb, and then what? Well,
and that's just such a ridiculous fear campaign, because you can say that about literally any country.
Pakistan, you can say it about India, you can say it about a number of other countries, North Korea, like everybody's got a bomb. It's just the thing is this is now the largest enemy and has always been, the biggest threat in the region to Israel. And they're scared to death of Iran because I think there's 90 million people in Iran and there's only somewhere around 20 million, in Israel. And those guys don't like ground fighting. Whereas Iran has a storied history of being some of the baddest fighters on the planet, especially in that region. I mean, it was the Persian Empire before, and that wasn't because of Iraq. It was because of Iran. And that hasn't changed. So, this situation over there, it's very interesting to me because it does, like we were talking about it last week, is it looks like the United States is playing both sides of the situation to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I'll just bring it up now because there's the 2 points that I think we're doing. I think like we're playing both sides of Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel, as far as like we're trying to get our own initiatives pushed forward and then like kind of keep Israel appeased for now. I think so. There's a theory that I have that I think that the release of the JFK files was actually a chess move by the Trump administration. I think there's a possibility to where they released the JFK files knowing that relationships with Israel were going to be discovered within like the JFK assassination plot. And I think that there's a possibility of Trump, like the Trump admin and Pete Hegseth, like kind of like using that as a potential like bargaining chip for going to Israel. It's like, hey, our people are finding out and they're going to continue to find out, and more are going to continue to find out that you guys played a major role in assassinating probably the most loved president in our history. They're going to want blood for that. Like they're going to want you guys to pay for it a little bit. And I think that's a possibility that like they're relying on that, as far as like maybe not a linchpin, but like a good kind of like just be prepared, like, or as far as like using the fear of like American bloodlust against them, on top of they're trying to keep Israel just like maybe just like starting to get on their back foot a little bit, because Israel's starting to also get much more kind of like boisterous or confident in the way that they're like talking about things, and their military campaigns, particularly against, was it Lebanon to their north, with Syria. I think what's also going on is that something that happened yesterday that I don't think really anybody knows about is that the Taliban in Afghanistan handed over. They actually requested that the U.S. take back Bagram Air Base. That's massive. As far as like, so I think that's a multipolar strategic move, in the sense of it's a move that looks like we are encircling Iran, which appeases Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. It looks like we're preparing for war for them. But I think the bigger move is that it drives a wedge in China's Belt and Road Initiative with maintaining and establishing control over Asia and the logistics.
At least the Middle East.
Yeah, well, and particularly in Afghanistan, where the cobalt is that we need for electronics and EVs and that kind of infrastructure. But then it also provides an oversight location strategic for the entire like Asian continent, as well as the Middle East and Northern Africa. Mm-hmm. And that would allow us to be also strategically positioned for the possibility that I think is coming, where the U.S. sides with Russia to pull Russia away from China, because we are much more ideologically and theologically aligned with Russia than like the two of like Russia and the U.S. are more theologically and ideologically aligned together than Russia is with China. Like Russia hates China. Like they both hate each other, but it's like, it's kind of like a partnership of like the devil you know versus the devil you don't, or whatever, you know?
Well, I think it's also, and I was going to get into this later in the show, but maybe it's the time to get into that is we kind of talked about, let me see if I can find it real quick. I've got about 1 billion tabs over here.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah, right.
I have to close mine down when we do the streams, otherwise my computer is like 10 years old, so it starts to like shut down.
So when we get into this, what we're getting into, and let's play the Iran thing first, because I think I think this is something that people need to see, because out of all the abortion that was the meeting between Netanyahu and Trump, especially with Hegseth saying, hey, we're the tough guys, basically, and we basically launched a military campaign without the approval and declaration of war from Congress on a nation state, right? Like,
yeah.
That bothers me, obviously, because the power of war was given to Congress for a lot of reasons, and that's Article 1, Section 8. I think it's Clause 11. That's the way it should have always been. It should have been the people who are in the House of Representatives that are supposed to represent the people to the U.S. government. That should have been in their hands. Whether we're going,
who's the first president that started ignoring that? Was it Obama?
No,
After...
it was Bush. So
it was Bush.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the AMUF, the authorization for military force was passed under Bush, and so basically they gave him a blank check to go and do what they needed to do to terrorists that attacked us on 9/11, right? And so they basically bastardized that. I got in a big argument with Justin Amash about the AUMF and how unconstitutional it was, where he was actually saying, no, it's constitutional. I was like, no, the mechanics. But let's see old Netanyahu's reaction when Trump starts talking about his direct talks with Iran that are coming up. And I think this is extremely telling.
We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable.
Is he coked up?
To doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory, and hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen.
I mean, you saw him like visibly swallow when he said we're going to have direct talks with Iran. Here's the thing, Mike, for me, when we're talking about diplomacy, we're not talking to Iran already directly. Like, what are you talking about? We're threatening, we're literally threatening possible nuclear war, and we're not talking? Like, what are we doing? Are we getting, and here's the thing is, I know the answer to that. We're literally getting most of our intelligence from that guy. The guy that lied about the Twin Towers, the guy that lied about all the other bullshit false flags that have happened in the region, the guy that has taken his intelligence service and crafted a narrative to push the United States into conflict with all of their damn neighbors. And when you see the overlay, here, or at least the zoom in on Netanyahu's face when he says we're talking directly with Iran, and
he's like, excuse me,
wait a second, you might hear some things in there that aren't quite in line with our intelligence. Like, hey, listen, we're not working on any of this shit. Also, do we have some nuclear facilities? Yeah, we have nuclear facilities, but they're for powering our people, right? Like, this is, if you guys were smart in America, you guys would actually, not listen to these, doom and gloom, guys like Netanyahu and BlackRock that are pushing ESG on everybody, because nuclear actually works.
Yeah, well, that's like my biggest thing is all this, all the actual cultural psyops against. Well, they're building nuclear weapons. Like,
who cares?
How about you think more of like they're primarily concerned with providing for their people, and that would be in the sense of providing the most reliable, consistent, and potent energy source, which would be nuclear.
Yeah,
maybe they're doing that. Like, why would any country's first thing outside of North Korea? Why would any country's first thing be we need a nuclear warhead? It's like, maybe we need the power first before we start fantasizing about a nuclear warhead. And even then, like, if like any intelligent country is going to know, if you get whenever you get a nuclear warhead, you paint a massive target on your back.
Right.
That just doesn't, the incentives aren't there. Like it's all literally it's just the copy paste of like Iraq as WMDs. We need to go in and do something. It's like, well, that turned out to be entirely a lie. So like, let's start looking for where the patterns are and start like actually avoiding the outcome that came out of it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is Iran has always been an extremely energy dense nation. When you look at who, where they're situated, they have plenty of oil. I mean, like oil reserves on top of oil reserves on top of oil reserves that humanity will never exhaust. But that's their export, right? Like they want to export oil to the world because that's literally what happened in terms of the United States kicking, or I should say, going in and performing Operation Ajax and ousting Mossadegh out of Iran as the premier, right? Like when they ousted Mossadegh, it was because BP, British Petroleum, had this deal with these guys for the early 1900s, and that's exactly how they won World War I. These guys go in there and they depose Mossadegh and they get the Shah in there instead. And that's what destabilizes the entire damn region and the country. It leads to the rise of the Ayatollah. But when they're looking at, can we provide cheaper, better power here without oil and use the oil for our exports so that we can enrich ourselves? That's exactly what they're doing. And to me, that just like there's no, I should say, the only incentive for war is because your currency is absolutely broken. You are literally you're broke. And that is such I think it's a medieval understanding of the way money should work to begin with. And that's, this is obviously where Bitcoin veterans, I think, shine is we understand that this side of it is one of those things where the calls for war in Ukraine versus Russia, the calls for war for the U.S. to go to war with Iran, it's all coming from the Federal Reserve. It's all coming from the money changers. Their broke ass system. I mean, Jerome Powell had some closed door meetings. What was it today? They've got some major things that are about to happen. And so, as we kind of transition into the rest of the show here, I think this is the move towards hard money is the underlying current that I don't think most people are talking about. And this is definitely, this is what's at stake. I mean, we talked about it kind of last week, is what's at stake is the old world, banking cabal is literally dying right now. And they're trying to do this, it seems like, hopefully as delicately as possible.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm of the opinion that like the old world banking cabal, part of it will also find a way to survive through the next thing. Because they're gonna do a strategy. I guarantee they're gonna do a strategy of they're gonna allow people to put Bitcoin on their balance in their bank account or whatever in exchange for them holding on to it, just like BNY Mellon did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to issue some sort of stable coin or CBDC on top of it. Then those banks will continue living on through that. But the most important thing that you touched on is that the economic world order is shifting. And I agree. I think a lot of these shows of military force are part of that. Like, hey, you want to be with us? Like, you need to be with us.
Yeah.
Because like the other thing too, and like did you want to talk about like what's going on with markets right now? Because like this could be a perfect kind of like dovetail into it.
I think this is exactly where I wanted to go, because we talked about Trump and we labeled the show like Trump, tariffs, and Netanyahu. So obviously there's some things that are developing hard and fast in the Middle East. I don't know, phrasing. A lot of guys are laughing out there right now. It's great. But
6 to midnight.
Yeah, right. So last week, Trump was like, "Hey, time's up. We're implementing tariffs."
Yeah,
and the global response was pretty interesting. Some countries out there, in groups of countries like the EU, there's like, "No, fuck you, man.
You're not doing that." It's like, okay,
all right, let's go.
Bing, red button.
China doubled down, and let's start with last week. So last week, I think we lost somewhere between I think it was almost $4 trillion that they evaporated or eviscerated.
Like in 3 days.
Yeah, it was like boom. Like going into Friday, we're like, oh man, let's see what happens. Monday close. There were some guys out there that were, going back and forth. The same guys like what is it, Benny, whatever the hell his name is. This mouth.
Benny, is it Benson, the one that's got the podcast?
Yeah. He's a mouthpiece for the Trump administration. And, when the market was diving under Kamala, you can go back and it's all over X right now. And you can see him going like, it's on fire. Like people have 401ks and everything is going down. And, she needs to be out here telling us about her economic plan and all this shit. And then you've got, him today, right? It's like, so what? You're going to lose some money in life. Like it's not going to hurt you. In fact, it's probably good for you because you're going to learn some things, right? And you're like, oh man, nobody right now who's, got a 401k that's just getting slaughtered is going, oh yeah, this is a good thing, right? Like nobody's going like, thanks Trump. Thanks for, screwing up my 401k. I don't care if they voted for him or not. I know there's some guys out there that are like, oh yeah, he's got the answer. You got to wait. It's 13-dimensional chess and all this bullshit. But there's a lot of people that are really hurting right now. So again, he posted 6 hours ago before the market closed. Benny said something to the effect of, see, like all you what did Trump call them? The panicans or whatever the hell it was.
Panicans.
Yeah. It's going to be just fine. Well, that was 6 hours before the close of the market, and the close of the market looks a little something like this. So on the 4 trillion that we lost last week, today they wiped up another 1.5 trillion in the market. You can see a couple of things out there. I think that's Berkshire Hathaway is up about 0.25%, which that's property, but barely.
Interesting.
Barely.
JPM is up.
Yeah, JPM is up, which means they're doing something out there. And
JP, and that's big because is Jamie Dimon the CEO of JP Morgan or is it Goldman Sachs?
That's okay.
That's what I thought. I just I gotta double check with everything,
Epstein's banker.
Yeah. Because he was one of the first ones that was like, he was like the major signal that a major market correction was coming because he sold off a ton of his shares.
Right.
And he's been talking about this for a while. Like, he's like, no, like there's a storm coming. Like, remember, like, I think it was a year ago, he said there's an economic storm coming.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to be prepared.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're managing, I don't know what, Jamie, manages in terms of trillions of dollars. I imagine it's probably small trillions, if not,
or close.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you look at this and you're just like, oh my God, like companies are getting wiped out right now, like literally wiped out. That moves money fast to hard assets. And one of the things that's happening around the world right now is, the Chinese said that we're not going to drop our tariffs. And by the way, we're going to maybe increase the tariffs. And Trump says, cool.
Okay.
We're going to increase our tariffs on China 104%. And on the market news, the yuan is absolutely being eviscerated. And I think that's out of the guys over at Zero Hedge right now. Like they're, here it is. Let me see.
Yeah, if you look at the USD versus Chinese yuan chart, like the US dollar chart is just like it's about to make all-time highs.
Yeah.
Which would be those that are looking at the image, the US dollar making all-time highs would be like you just flip this chart the exact opposite, like flip it upside down, and that's what the US dollar strength against the Chinese yuan looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is you got Liberation Day on here, you got fight to the end, 50% tariffs. Like this is going to do a few things, and it's probably going to do one huge thing. China is already moving off of the SWIFT system, and I think I saw news earlier today that they've opened up their own system and they're going to be circumventing the SWIFT system, which means that the U.S. can't use any sort of leverage against them outside of that now. And if they can continue to trade and they continue to do business with the yuan, so where does that put us, Mike? I think this starts pushing everybody extremely hard into hard assets, and that means
specifically neutral assets.
Whether it's gold or whether it's Bitcoin, I think this is the point where you go, like things are breaking, and they're breaking in real time. The Fed, I don't think, knows what to do. If the Fed comes out and says we got to print, which, let's face it, the Fed is going to say we're going to have to print. We're going to probably take out minimum $15 trillion in debt over the next, let's just say from now to 2035. It's going to be, and I don't think it'll even last that long. But you start to print money, and the yuan does the same thing because that's what they're going to have to do. You're talking about the yuan and America printing such truckloads of money that it's not even fathomable. And the great suck of liquidity, man, that's Bitcoin all over it.
So I think this is why I like paying attention to all this stuff. Is I think and this is also where the military action that we were talking about fits in. I think that what's going on here is I agree. Regardless of whether you think that there's a legitimate recession in the US coming, I think is a moot point. I don't think that really matters. Yeah. I think there's printing coming regardless, to your point, because the reshoring manufacturing, building up of energy infrastructure, building up power plants, all this stuff is going to require subsidization. Yeah. So it's coming regardless. It doesn't matter what your opinion is of whether the U.S. is going into a recession or even a depression.
Yeah, support what you just said. This came out of the Trump administration as well today. We need more than double the electricity we have now.
Yep.
So what does that tell you?
And I've been talking about that for years. It's been necessary for a very long time, which also means we need copper and all this other stuff. But anyway, I think what's going on with the tariffs and China engaging in economic and currency wars. So one thing that's very interesting that I didn't really think about, I think it was Tom Luongo I was listening to on Marty Bent yesterday, was that the interesting thing about this tariff war is that the U.S. having the global reserve currency and us having effectively the money printer for the entire world,
right?
The difference of positions in this economic war with China is that we're capable of printing the currency that all of global trade is based off of and then buying their goods.
Yeah.
They don't have that. They don't have that whole system of they can print their own money and then they're buying our stuff with it. Right. So they're printing their money, then they have to change it over to US dollars, and then they're buying potentially, farmland or something.
Right.
But the major economic force is the fact that we can print our own funny money and buy our shit and buy their shit with it and manufacture it and all that. So it's okay, you want to slap tariffs on us, we'll just double it. What are you gonna do? The fact that all of what is it, 60 to 70% is based off of global trade is based off of the US's activity.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of manufacturing in the world is based off of China, which that manufacturing is based off US demand. So by forcing this market correction through the tariff war and reducing the amount of demand that the US is going to produce, it's going to castrate or hamstring China's economic power because the demand is going to go away. It's then what are you going to do with all of your infrastructure and manufacturing that you have? It's just going to grind to a halt. So what do you expect to be able to do here?
So what's left, right? and here is, I think, what ties this all together. This is from Van Eck, the head of digital asset research, Matthew Siegel, down here in the highlighted portion. It says that interest is no longer theoretical. China and Russia have reportedly begun settling some energy transactions in Bitcoin.
Yep.
And digital.
It's been happening for years, by the way.
Yeah. Bolivia has announced plans to import electricity using crypto, and French energy utility EDF is exploring whether it can mine Bitcoin with surplus electricity currently exported to Germany. These are early signs that Bitcoin is evolving from a speculative asset into a functional monetary tool, particularly in economies looking to bypass the dollar and reduce exposure to U.S.-led financial systems. Man, if we've said it once, I guess we've said it a million times. It is wait until energy is priced in Bitcoin, and they're doing it. They're literally settling energy cost in Bitcoin, which means that's going to move. Like that idea isn't going to stay put. That's going to catch on in the Middle East, and when it catches on in the Middle East on a oil dependent world, it's going to be sooner than later that we are paying for oil with Bitcoin, and that changes everything, and it's going to change the rails and how everything else works on top of it. It's just game theory is playing out so fast now, and this was not, like I said, it's not been on anybody's bingo card. Nobody was like Trump is going to be a Bitcoin guy. We've said it for a while. We think this is absolutely a defense initiative at this point. So with the electricity that he's calling for, double the electricity in the United States. I mean, you're literally talking about taking the 3 grids, East Coast, West Coast, Texas, and expanding those by double. That is an incredible number. And it is. They're going to have to print money like crazy to do that. And where's it going to go? It's going into substations. It's going into new power plants. It's going into Bitcoin mining. And
because they're going to act as grid balancing for the grid, but they're also going to act as like demand and supply balancing for like protecting infrastructure, like the power plants or the data centers or anything else.
Yeah, and it gives them first crack at Bitcoin. And will they nationalize it? I don't know. I hope not. And I don't know that, in the realm of Bitcoiners, right? And that's the thing is you do have companies out there that are Bitcoin companies that are not full of Bitcoin C-suite executives.
Yeah.
That's changing because they depend on Bitcoiners inside of their organizations to share that Bitcoin culture. And they're literally orange pilling C-suites right now in real time. And that's something that's incredible because you've got a lot of people in Bitcoin that are in, the oil and gas business that don't understand Bitcoin. So now that's changing, and those people are going to start to understand like, oh, wait, we can also get paid in Bitcoin. Like we for what we're doing out here in terms of, our own oil and gas here in the United States, we should be getting paid in Bitcoin. Like all these other countries are saying, hey, pay us in Bitcoin. This is going to happen. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that talks about, numbers, but I'm going to tell you right now, like enjoy $70,000 Bitcoin because that shit's fucking gone soon.
I can tell you, I've been nibbling for the last couple of days. The other thing too is like part of this entire like calculus is that while all that's happening, all these superpowers are also going to be figuring out like what the next economic world order is, because they're not going to like let just Bitcoin be like the currency, the dominant currency, right? And like, I mean, Bitcoin can't like by definition be a currency anyway, but what they're going to be doing, and what I think Besant is right about, is that they're using the tariffs as like China, like you're going to need to have a seat at the table to talk about like the next world economic order, like the economic order of superpowers. You need to be at the table, and we can bring you to the table either through like beating the shit out of you with tariffs, or you can just come to the table and we can talk about how you like what your place is going to be in the next world order. Because like because like the other thing too is like we have to consider like what's going on with NATO, the EU, and like this war in Ukraine. Like Trump and the US have made it very clear that like we have no interest in continuing this thing in Ukraine. It's just complete nonsense. It's wasting of resources and particularly human lives. So like there's a desire to get that thing taken care of, but Zelensky's being a flippin' idiot and Putin's kind of like playing into that a little bit. So there's a desire, like what I'm seeing is that there's a desire to let the EU die.
Yeah.
Like the European Union is in the process of imploding and rusting away. And Europe is gonna, if that happens, then Europe is probably gonna fall into a point of where they go cannibalistic and start eating each other. And because and that doesn't really impact the rest of the world because I triple confirmed it over the last couple of days. The majority of the European Union's exports are pharmaceuticals and medicinal products.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those are going to be provided by the big pharma companies that started out of the Nazi Empire. and they're primarily producing things like Adderall and SSRIs and all this shit that the rest of the world doesn't need or actually want anyway. They just have superpowers like the US addicted to.
Yeah, and they're the same people that brought you COVID, right? They're the same pharmaceutical companies that have castrated the Germans first and foremost. And I mean this with all the respect and love in my heart for my German brothers and sisters. Like listen, I know what's going on over there. I know what you guys have been subjected to. You guys might not even know what you've been subjected to, but it's
probably very likely.
It's very likely that a lot of those people are starting to wake up and understand like what's going on. But you're right. Like if Europe goes to war, I'm not saying you don't lose anything in terms of trade, but exactly
it's negligible. Like you can deal with it. Like things are going to get more expensive, but like because like I think 6% of their exports are like appliances.
Mm-hmm. But
great,
you look at the world centers right now, and I really think it's not that we're just going to be able to bring China to the table. China, if we're going this route towards Bitcoin and settlement in Bitcoin and mining of Bitcoin, China has a huge bargaining chip. When we talk about who manufactures the chips that run Bitcoin miners, it's almost exclusively China.
Yeah, and it's not just the chips, it's the transformers and all the other like very like the actual necessities for infrastructure.
So this is something that's going to have to be navigated with a certain amount of finesse. And I really you're absolutely right, because you start taking these miners and throwing giant taxes on them that are coming here from China, then all of a sudden you're looking at more expensive Bitcoin on top of it, right? Miners are going to have to make their money back. I don't think that's going to be a problem as Bitcoin soars, but in the interim time, while this is being played out, that could be extremely cost prohibitive bringing miners in from China. Not to mention the fact that when you have these kind of things on U.S. soil, that also comes with Chinese, right? Like literally, and everybody who's successful in corporations in China, let me tell you, they work for the Chinese government. So when
isn't it like a mandate that you're not allowed to be a entrepreneur in China if your company gets bigger than like the CCP?
Right.
That's why they sent what's his face, the Alibaba CEO. They sent him to like some like camp or something. They disappeared him for like a number of months, and then he came back and they had basically complete control over Alibaba.
Yeah. So you got this thing playing out. I mean, Russia's obviously extremely resource rich. They're hardy people. They are not putting up with anybody's bullshit. They're a nuclear state. China is the same. And then you've got the United States over here in the Western Hemisphere that, has dominated the world for, the better part of, 70 years now. And that, to me, if I was trying to single out a people or a country in the world that had taken the world to war over and over and over again, let's face it, Russia doesn't want war. China doesn't want war. The United States of America, the American people don't want war. And it sounds like Trump's trying to prevent that by having direct talks with Iran. Now, if you couple all of that along with the fact that they're moving into and starving, trade and these overblown markets from each other, with tariffs, now what you're looking at is almost a economic alliance. Nobody's saying it. Nobody's coming out and saying, we're forming an economic alliance on Bitcoin with Russia and China as the United States. But if it was me and I was taking on what I believe is probably the most dangerous, unstable, and now kind of found out country and people on this planet, I think that's probably that's the way I'm headed. I am headed to a hard system. And I'm going to do this as quietly and as, economically, what's the word of it?
Viable.
Not only viable, but it's a surreptitious move, right? Like this is one of those surreptitious moves where you're not broadcasting. This is literally all kind of flying over here on the side. We're not talking about it with the banks. Meanwhile, the banks, the Federal Reserve, are absolutely in panic mode right now, and they have no idea what to do. It's just war, 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 war. And these guys are going, no, let's not do this shit anymore.
Well, I mean, it's the central banking prerogative. Like, the only way to keep their game going is to print money by demand, which is through war.
Yeah.
Because it's just you're fabricating inefficiency at that point. That's all you're doing. Because the other thing too is we've been talking about that kind of game theory since the Clubhouse days. Like, when you provide something where you can have neutrally aligned as far as politics, ideology, and everything else, when you have something to where two parties that might be, adversarial to each other, but when you provide the golden bridge or the orange bridge that is Bitcoin of hey, I don't like you, you don't like me, but you have stuff that I want, I have stuff that you want. I don't want to use your currency, you don't want to use mine. Let's just do it in this. Let's just do it in this. Because I have to feed my people, you have to feed yours. I want to get power up and all this other stuff. If things come to blows, we can deal with that. Men, we can go out to the parking lot and deal with blows and establish who's the bigger man. And then we'll have to deal with that afterwards. But as far as providing the food and everything, let's just do it this way.
Yeah.
That's effectively what we're talking about. And because the thing that I think the thing that the general public tends to lose sight of is that and you kind of have to be more macroly aligned to be able to see it, but households, communities, churches, businesses, governments, armies, they're all made up of a group of people, and they all take on their own personality. Every company is going to act like a person, because there's a bunch of people that are part of the whole decision making behavior.
Yeah.
And it's an incentive structure, but the company of Tesla has its own personality versus the company of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Just like aircraft, Colonel Towner Watkins in one of her spaces just talking about, which I actually appreciated a lot. Something that people that outside of aviation don't know about is that different aircraft will have their own personalities. There are some aircraft that are known as hangar queens, because they're constant. There's always a problem with it. And it's always, and the pilots that fly them, they know the problems and they can feel the differences between the aircraft. It's oh yeah, I remember, they can take a seat in an aircraft after being gone from it for 10 years and be oh yeah, I remember this one. I remember how this one feels. I know exactly what aircraft this is, and they can know it without knowing that the tail number has changed over the years.
Wow.
But this kind of stuff is people need to be aware of, so you can take that that aircraft, because it was built by people, is maintained by people, and it's operated by people. It has its own personality, it's almost its own consciousness. So when you look at governments and companies and countries, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Another example would be the state of Texas acts like a cowboy, because it's made up of a bunch of cowboys that are very strong-willed, stubborn, and they're going to do their own thing, versus the state of New York, kind of a blue-pilled, weak, only about money, will is a snake, will
at least that little island part down there.
Yeah. New York City.
Let's give everybody not that part of New York the benefit of the doubt. There's a bunch of good people up there.
Fair enough. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is different cities will also have their own kind of personalities because of that.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind when we're talking about going to war and all this other stuff. Is you have to look at these countries as they have their own personalities and their own, because they're led by people.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with them like that.
What a trip would that be, man? It's the EU sides, I guess maybe just with the EU, but then you've got an alliance of the United States, you've got an alliance of Russia and China, and it's all against our Middle Eastern false flagging bastards that have really done some heinous shit over the last 80 years, man.
That's actually a good, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing I wanted to make a comment on, is when you're looking at all this activity. So and what I'm primarily going to be talking to is like the anti-Trumpers, like the kind of like the liberals here in the US that are just like
they're not watching.
Well, they're not watching, but it's like it's gonna be good for like our audience that is listening, and like they're gonna be inevitably engaging with some of these people.
Yeah.
The thing to consider here, as far as like those of you that are gonna have conversations with these individuals after the show, is that what a lot of people what a lot of those people are ignoring or just choosing not to acknowledge is that Trump is effectively, with these tariffs, he's doing what we talked about with China, but he's also dealing with the UK and Europe at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the UK, like London and Europe, remember they're separated since Brexit. London and the EU have been trying to demand that the US print money to support them, right? And that was a year, like literally a year before the whole invasion of Ukraine kicked off. So in summer of 21, Lagarde tried telling Powell that he needed to print money to support the European Union and the ECB, and Powell was like, "I'm like, respectfully, fuck you. Like, I'm beholden to the American people, not to the European people." Doing this whole tariff war with the entire world and sending markets into this correction is dragging European markets down with it, obviously along with like China and Japanese markets too. But by dragging the European markets down and kind of publicly reeling back our public support for NATO and this war with Russia and removing ourselves from the climate accords, Trump is effectively like, you're dealing with a group of bullies. Like, and when you're dealing with bullies, you don't hit back with equal force. You hit back with excessive force because you're fighting the later battles too. So Trump is Trump, and like I'm not trying to give just Trump the credit because it's his admin too, but like Bessent and all these guys, by doing what they're doing with the tariff war, they're effectively putting London and Europe along with China back in their place in the world. It's like, no, you guys don't get to demand what we do. We're the king of the castle still. Like, you follow what we follow, because like did you catch a couple weeks ago Trump like floated to the public the idea of like America falling into the UK Commonwealth? I think
what are you talking about, man?
I think doing that was like London came to him and they're like, "Hey, you guys should do this." And Trump's like, "That's a stupid idea. Let me show you why." And then he puts it out to the public, and all of the US is like, "Fuck off." Like, no.
Yeah, well, we're gonna rejoin the UK, the one that we revolted from over 250 fucking years ago. Like, get out of here, man.
And like when you're paying attention to all these events, it's basically the entire world is trying to tell the US what to do and what is in the US's best interest, and we're all like, go fuck yourself. We know exactly what we need to do for ourselves. We're going to do it, and you guys are going to have to deal with it because we have all the big sticks.
Yeah.
Right. And one of those big sticks is the economic power. Now, what we're doing is going to affect it. It's also, it's causing, counter moves like the rise of BRICS and China getting away from the SWIFT system. It just, what it requires from us is just having the wisdom to see what's like really happening, making logical observations of the environment and the terrain, how it's shifting, and then going to where the shift is going to be, which behooves bringing China to the table, bringing Russia to the table, and effectively telling the European Union, you guys, if you want us to care, and if you want to actually have a seat at the table, this is something that Tom Luongo has also been talking about, where he believes that Macron is trying to like establish himself as leader of the European Union and effectively king of Europe, which is a very French thing. If you understand,
Napoleon thing to do.
Yeah, it's very, very. If you're, I'm a weak student of history as far as Europe goes, but like that's a very common thread is like between England and France and for a little while Spain, like they're all trying to like be king of Europe. That's why Macron has been doing like kind of like acting like a strong arm in Europe, is like he's trying to establish that and like have a seat at the table. And I think he sees that not only France, but none of Europe is really deserving of having a seat at the superpower table.
Right.
That
well, they've had a free lunch since World War II.
Yeah, and that's why the U.S. I think is going to bring China, Russia. They're probably what looks like they're going to be bringing Vietnam to the table because they're going to be. I saw a theory that they want to replace Singapore with Vietnam, which makes sense. And then they're probably going to bring India to the table because they're going to have India is going to become the next China as far as like providing cheap labor because those guys reproduce like rabbits. It's insane. And then they're also going to be whoever's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to have the seat at the table for South America and Africa. But like those are going to have to be like all the different parties that come together. It's like, hey, we need to have the next Bretton Woods, and this is where I think Matthew Pines is probably accurate. There's going to be a Mar-a-Lago agreement or pact or whatever, Mar-a-Lago Accord, to where Trump has all these leaders come together. It's like, hey, we all see that the current economic currency dynamics are shifting. Let's figure out what's going to work out best for the entire world.
Yeah.
And I think the best way we do that is by also leaving Israel out of it. Preferably Israel and Saudi Arabia. Like, I think they both need to be left out. But politics is politics, so we'll probably see that. Yeah.
Man, thinking through what you're saying here is you look at, the evolution of this entire process, and you take it to the next step. Like, okay, well, if we're not using dollars anymore, what are we using? And you geographically, right?
Yeah.
I know Ursula wants to put up, some bullshit, CBDC, and that's going to fly over like, a fart in church. So, like, who's going to accept a European, token? Nobody's going to accept it. Nobody gives a shit about your European token. If Russia, says, hey, we want to do digital rubles, or China says we want to do digital yuan, like, no, like, then none of this is going to work. And
they're going to be good internally, but not internationally.
If people aren't going to take dollars, they're definitely not going to take some new CBDC, type of currency from anybody else. What does that leave? The only thing left on the table is gold
That's
settlement.
Truly neutral.
Yeah, is gold settlement or Bitcoin.
Yeah, and they're not gonna like the gold settlement's only going to work for a few countries because it's completely captured.
Not only is it completely captured, it just doesn't make sense in a economic,
physical sense.
A global economy that moves at the speed of light now.
Yeah,
man,
it just doesn't make sense.
I think we just cracked this nut wide open, Mike. Man, it's very interesting times to be a part of this. And, you look at what's going on, and there's a lot. Let's say this, what is it? 825. If you're out there and you're new to Bitcoin and you're watching this thing go from 108 down to 77,000, like, please don't panic. Please don't be that guy that says, oh, I got to get out now. Like, you are going to miss maybe the most meteoric rise in Bitcoin that we've ever seen.
Yeah, pay attention to the fact that none of us are panicking.
Yeah, no, like, we don't give a shit. Everybody who's been holding is gleeful right now that it's at 77, and you can scoop up more of it than you have been able to in a few months at least. This is the time to accumulate. If you have 401ks, if you got IRAs, if you got TSPs, man, converting this into a Bitcoin position is super simple. Unchained Capital, those guys can help you over there. Bunch of good guys that I know, and they do it. They've got the expertise to do this right. And if you want to take the tax hit, take the tax hit. Trust me, I did it. Back in the day, I took a 30% haircut and put it into Bitcoin, and I was like, you know what, that thing's gonna come and go, and it has. This is no time to be holding dollars, and I mean that. I cannot hammer that home enough. If I was that guy that was, 20 years ago younger, I'd be yelling in your face right now, get out of your banks, get out of the dollars, stop messing around with this bullshit, own scarce assets. And the most scarce asset on the planet right now is Bitcoin. and it's not going to be this price for very long, I don't think, man. Especially after we've laid it out for you in this show. If you haven't, watched from the beginning, go back and watch from the beginning. We literally laid out what's happening geopolitically around the world right now, what it means, what Trump's signaling, what he's saying in terms of, doubling energy and everything else, and how he's trying to make peace even with Iran. And he's saying this in front of Netanyahu, and if you can't see it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Satoshi thing. It's like, if you don't get it, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to explain it to you. Like, if you can't see it, if you can't see it now, like
we literally laid it out for you perfectly for an hour and a half on this show.
Yeah.
Figure out Bitcoin. I will tell you, if you're looking for a good place to buy Bitcoin, the guys over at River are phenomenal. I want to say the guys over at Bitcoin Well are great guys as well. And this space is challenging to learn, but it's worth it. And then you're going to be amongst people who are building the future. And I got to tell you, having gone camping with my kids this weekend and started explaining, consciousness and everything else to them, the ability of this group,
that was fun,
dude. Yeah, I love this kind of stuff. The ability to have a understanding of consciousness, and then to find other people who are on the same high vibration bandwidth that you are, that are building, that are discovering, that are learning, that are teaching. That is a group of people that describes Bitcoin perfectly. And those are the people who are going to change the world. It's not the people who want to destroy. It's not the people who want to kill. And we can all see who those people are. It's not the people who want to censor or oppress speech. It's not the people who want to, kick people out for saying certain things about certain people. It's not the people who want to disarm you. It's not the people who want to take your property. These are the people who are fighting for everything that we were told America is. And they are building that system with their bare hands. And I think we're about to see some pretty amazing things. And if you want to be part of this, especially if you're already part of Bitcoin Veterans, you can go to bitcoinveterans.org. And if you're looking for a job at Bitcoin, let us know. We have Gabe Lord, who is one of the founders who runs Operation Bitcoin, who specializes in getting guys spun up and teaching Bitcoin. And then there are those of us who are in the industries out here in Bitcoin. And it sounds like we're going to be growing a lot, and we're going to need a lot of guys, especially veterans. So if you know a veteran that's looking for something that's bigger than themselves again, and it's gonna be the lifeline of America and bringing this country to its quote unquote golden age. It's a real orange age. I don't know what we're going to call it, but
well, we can call it the title of my book that I'm working on finishing up. It's going to be a second renaissance is what it's going to be. So like,
do you want to cover? You want to tease it a little bit?
Yeah, I'll tease it. 1 second, guys.
Mike's been writing this book forever.
Yeah, so this is the cover. I got some stuff on the internals I got to deal with, but
it's blurring it a little bit.
Can I turn it off while I'm live?
You can turn your background blur off for sure.
Yeah, let me do that. So, and ignore my messy couch behind me, guys.
Just put the book over. There you go.
Yeah. But this is what, and look at that. You're getting a reflection of the screen anyway inside of it. But this is what it's going to look like. It's basically wrapped up like that's. I've got confirmation that at least I have the cover where I want it. I got some formatting issues to deal with because I hate Microsoft Word. But that should be done here ideally in the next couple of weeks. But I can guarantee it'll be ready for summer. So you guys can look forward to that. And I'm keeping it cheap. Like I think $15 is what I set the ISBN for. So I know that I'm trying to make sure that every Bitcoiner can get a copy and not break the bank for I don't want to take away from everybody's stacking. So I'm really excited to get that out because the best part is like what we've all been talking about here today is like we're looking at a second renaissance coming.
Yeah.
And the part that I'm really excited for too is that Larry Lepard gave me a copy of his book while I was at BitBlock Boom. So shout out to you, Larry. Thanks for the signed copy. I'm gonna get it like
he's a busy man, man. I just saw him down at Mining Disrupt the week before.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking it over, and knowing Larry and I are very much aligned in the Doom Lord kind of talking points. Our focus is that both of our books, I think, are gonna go very like we're gonna like kind of like fill the puzzle pieces overlaying together and like kind of like fill in the gaps. Like I'm gonna be in the second Renaissance, I'm gonna be talking about some of the problems, which is also how Larry's book starts, identifying some of the problems, and then talking about the benefits that are going to come out of it that Bitcoin addresses. Nice. So like good old like kind of like white pill started with a little black pill appetizer. So
nice. That's what everybody loves. They like the doom and gloom up front and then the hope at the end. It's a classic tale as old as time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, Mike. It is 8:30 already, my man. Yeah, time flies when you're laying out the world for everybody, and it's always good to get on here, guys. We try to do this every Tuesday. I think it's going to be 7:00. We'll have a firm response for you guys at some point when Mike and I Jordan's back there going like, geez, man, Shane's just
he's just dying.
But yeah, we'll try to get this at a more consistent time. I'm traveling a lot. I know Mike's doing a little bit as well.
Yeah.
There is a lot of moving pieces, and so sorry that this has been a little more sporadic than it has been in the past, but it's kind of the way things go sometimes when things are really happening, and I want you guys to know that we're in the middle of it. So if you guys want to be part of this, we'd love to have you. We are growing all sorts of different groups. We just set up a emergency response team today, which I mean, I didn't even say that.
Did we really? I didn't know about that.
You're in the chat as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are literally 501c3s that are being stood up by veteran groups and EMTs and firefighters that saw some of the stuff that we did in Western North Carolina, and they're like, hey man, we can all join forces and bring something different to this as basically a non-response from FEMA. And so if you want to do some amazing stuff in this world, this is the kind of group that's going to help you do it. bitcoinveterans.org. We'd love to have you be a part of it. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not. We've got plenty of civilians doing this as well. But I guess until next week, until Tuesday, 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. or somewhere in between, we'll put out the announcement. Then thanks to all 600 plus of you out there. We will see you then. Peace.